Dear survivor, healing is so worth the journey. It's hard. It will be hard, but it is worth the journey. I am a testament to that. So if you are on that journey right now, keep going. And if you haven't started yet, I hope this inspired you to take that journey.
Hi, I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sudano.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
Welcome to Voice Up for the Voiceless. We're so glad that you've tuned in with us today. And it is our prayer that this podcast expose the evil of child sexual abuse. And we feel so honored that we're able to just hold open a space for survivors to be able to tell their stories, to learn more about the issue, to create more compassion around the issue.
Offer prevention tips,
and give survivors a place to not only tell their stories, but to tell their healing journey. And hopefully you're inspired. Hopefully you're inspired if you are a survivor or if you know a survivor, to be able to open up a conversation with them and not be so terrified of it.
Yeah, for sure. And please subscribe and share. Put that little bell if you're watching us on YouTube. We can't do this on our own, and there's so many survivors out there. And if you know one or you are one, this can be scary, but actually it's not. If you get to the other end, it's really, really, I don't know. I call it peaceful, if that's even, or our new word, delightful.
Yeah, Katie and I, as being survivors, have gone through a long journey of healing ourselves, and I know it's hard to talk about, and we still get choked up at times. But unless we stand in that gap and break the silence, then who is?
Yeah, and we can't keep perpetuating this darkness, and
children have to be protected.
Yeah,
we've got to protect their innocence. So today we have an inspiring guest. I'm so excited to be able to introduce her. God has kind of brought full circle because he used me in a tiny, tiny piece of her healing, which I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed every time I meet a survivor years later and see that they're thriving and they're victorious and that they're doing kingdom work. So without further ado, we want to welcome Jazmine Bledsoe with Nio Nation.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Welcome,
Yay,
Jazmine.
welcome.
Thank you, guys.
So honored to meet you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
You've known Angela for a long time, though, right?
For a couple years, right?
Yeah.
I'm bad with dates. 2021.
Okay, so a few years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent.
2021.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us how you became to be a survivor of child sexual abuse, and then what God has done with that.
Yeah. So, all right. So it's so interesting to tell this story because it's like, where do you begin? Where do you start? I'm gonna start from what I can remember, and then I'll tell you how what I didn't remember for years came to memory.
Wow.
Before what actually happened that I do remember. So, I was never abused by anyone in my family, thank God. It was my first time being abused that I could remember was when I was around 10, 11, 12 years old. Now, my memory is honestly very fuzzy.
And that's so common for survivors. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yes, it's very fuzzy with my entire childhood. My siblings can remember a lot of things that I can't remember. But around 10, 11, 12 years old, my abuse started with an unorthodox way, which I consider unorthodox because I had a hard time accepting it, but it was neighborhood boys. Because I always knew or thought of abuse happening, as a child and then there's an adult. But I never actually considered my abuse to count because it was by older neighborhood boys. And so they were kids themselves. And so I never saw it the way that it was.
There's a term for that now.
Child
youth
on
on
child.
youth?
Yeah.
Youth on youth,
Yep.
Which is, you say unorthodox, which is strange that you use that word. I understand what you're saying, but it's very common.
Right,
It happens
yeah.
a lot. So I hope you understand now that it does count.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
okay.
And so like but at the time it felt like that didn't fit the mold of what sexual abuse was, right? And so that happened often. And I was a athletic child. I loved to be outside. I loved to play outside. And most of the time I'm playing outside with other boys, right? And so during those times was when they would take advantage of me and do things that were not appropriate at all. And when I really like look back on the details of certain situations, it's like it almost seems very predatory, even though there is a good chance that a lot of those boys were being abused themselves, because we know, that's common as well. The children who abuse other children.
Or being exposed to certain things that they
pornography.
didn't.
Yes. And I know that was happening to them because they exposed me to that.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
as a child. And they forced me to watch it.
Oh.
Like they forced me to, like, physically force me to watch it.
Well, it's so accessible now that I truly believe pornography is one of the greatest abusers of this century.
Well, you don't have to tell me, but because you look so young. So how old are you now?
I am, actually, I would love for you to guess.
Guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not going to get offended.
I know, so I'm not going to tell.
How old
you're
do I look?
You're so, but your spirit is older. Like you, obviously,
soul in a young
yeah,
body.
Yeah. You look 27,
Okay.
28, 27.
That's
How
how
old?
I feel. I
Okay,
feel
I feel
27.
you too.
Yeah. I'm actually 34.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
I'll
you
be-
look old.
Oh, you're my daughter's
So
age.
you're 34. So we're 24. So when you were 10, what year was it? Because I can't do math that quick. 1990 something?
Not even that, because I was born in 89.
Yeah, so you were
Okay.
2000.
December
Yeah,
89.
around 2000.
Yeah.
Year
So 2000. So
Yep.
you were about 10. I'm just trying to, the reason why I ask is because I know how pornography has gotten easier and
Escalated.
easier and
To
more
access.
accessible. So in 2000, I mean, there was internet, there's, okay. So it was easier
Videos,
access.
parents' videos, that's typically
Even
how-
magazines.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They were still around back then.
Okay, so you're being forced to watch this, physically
Yeah,
forced.
I was physically forced to watch it. It was one instance where I was physically forced to watch it, and there was another instance where Truth or Dare was being played, and I was like, I'm not gonna play it. And then one of the kids, but I still wanted to be around. I still wanted to be outside with everyone, but I was trying to be like, I don't want to play. But then I was dared to do something that I was like, I'm absolutely not going to do that. And instead of listening to listening to my voice, it was about four or five boys picked me up and forced me into a house and locked me in a room with another boy to do what they dared me to do, and so those are like examples of things being done by other neighborhood boys. And I remember being like dragged through the house, not dragged on the floor, but they picked me up and I'm grabbing a hold of the wall saying, put me down, so like those are moments where
Very traumatic.
like, yeah, I can remember. And it's like, this is wrong. This feels very wrong. But also my understanding and my framework of abuse is not a child, So it's like, it was really, really weird to think through and to like process. And,
yeah. Did
all
you
that.
tell your parents?
No, I didn't tell my parents anything until I was 24.
Oh,
And I
okay.
told them before I got baptized. I got baptized in my 20s. And I was like, I have to tell my parents before I tell the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When you break your
it might be a
silence.
little
Yeah.
shocking to them.
Right. So
How did they respond? Were they supportive or?
So my dad, he was supportive in his best way that he could be. I'm mature enough to know that, his heartbreak came across very authoritative, and but it wasn't that. And so my mom,
Like protective kind of
well,
in a way? Or?
it almost felt like he was angry at me,
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
but he was angry at the situation.
Right.
Sure.
And, he even cried and just like kept saying, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell
Yeah.
me? But aggressively saying, why didn't you tell me?
So that's a little triggering.
Yeah.
too.
And I was like, in that moment in my head, I was like, this is why I didn't tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, And then my mom, she was like, Kevin, she's telling us now, and they, got emotional and everything. And we hugged it out at the end. But that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was tell my parents. I literally lost my voice telling them. It's like I was so, the terror was right here.
And terror because, and I'm just speaking out of my own experience, but I'm assuming the shame and kind of guilt a little bit. I mean, because we all feel it, I think, especially when we're about to tell.
And when we're carrying that secret, it's so heavy. It's a heavy lift. So to open it up, it's devastating.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how someone is going to respond. And you've worked up all these scenarios in your head and created.
But the scenarios are always worse than the outcome. I mean, they're your parents, and I know some parents are just like different. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, your core values, and I think that they love us, and they do worry, and they do want us to be happy. And it is shocking. I remember when my son disclosed, I was like, but I always kind of had a feeling something had happened to him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So you said there were multiple abusers. So this was
in that
one instance.
Yeah. Well, there was in that. I'm characterizing as a gap of instances, 10, 11, 12 by those boys. It was multiple times within that gap of time.
Sure.
So yeah, there was multiple times within that gap of time. And then fast forward to when I was 18 years old, after I graduated high school. Another male who wasn't right around the same age as me, he sexually assaulted me in our home. And so, and this is one of my brother's friends, whom I considered a friend, whom he's been to our house so many times, whom my parents know him, you know what I mean?
So you were comfortable with him? Yes,
very comfortable with him. I also knew he had a crush on me, but, I was not, at this point I was saved and he wasn't, So one day he decided, he came to deliver a game memory card that was my brother's. And I was home by myself at this time. And he came to give it to him, but he wasn't there. And I opened the door and, I said, hey, you can go do what you need to do with the game console because I don't know how to work all that and I don't want to break anything, right? And so let him in the house, not thinking anything of it. And then, when he wouldn't immediately leave, I was about to say I should have noticed the red flags, but I'm going to show grace to myself.
Yeah, good.
But he was just getting really annoying and like, why can't you give me a chance and all of that stuff, not really seeming dangerous. And then he tried to initiate play fighting with me, and I'm just like, I'm trying to watch my movie, and you are just getting in the way of that right now. And then literally one thing led to another, and he is in the midst of assaulting me, and I remember like his belt coming undone, and I remember trying to fight back, but like my body lost all of its ability to defend itself.
It just froze.
It's like the best way I can explain it is like my arms became noodles. They felt like just spaghetti noodles.
Did you disassociate?
I did.
Did you go somewhere?
Yep, I did. And I had flashbacks from when I was a child, like what I just shared with you guys. And but I do believe this instance, in the other instances maybe, but I know for a fact I saw something in him. I do believe this was demonic. Because when he was on top of me, he literally said with eyes that were not his, you want it.
Oh.
And it was not him. Yeah. I can tell it was not him. And then the phone rang, and he like came back to who he was, and he looked at me. He was like, I am so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then he left. Well, I said something like in my aggressive nature, which I'm not going to say on this podcast. And then he left, and that was the end of that scenario. And so that was a moment right before going off to college that happened.
And you never reported him? Or?
I never reported him.
Did you tell your parents when you disclosed the other abuse?
So they still don't know about him.
Okay. Oh, you might want to tell them before this airs.
They still don't know about him. And
Is your brother still friends with him?
no, I did tell my brother.
Oh, so he knows.
My brother knows, and our next door neighbor, who is also like my brother, knows. And they were going to go and
take care of business.
Fight him, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And but what I do know about this other guy is that his dad just got out of prison. If my dad found out, and then knowing his dad just got out of prison, I don't know how that situation's going to, end, at that time.
Unfortunately,
that's what I was thinking.
We are trying to protect everybody else in our abuse. We're trying to make it easy, so to speak. But you have the courage to speak now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that that's healing. And hopefully I just trust God to take care of those people and those actions in his due
Where
time.
is it in the Bible where it says
Vengeance is mine, saith
yeah,
the
where
Lord.
is that? I can't remember. I'm not good at that.
I don't remember. I don't know where it is exactly either. But the thing is, we know. We know the word. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So take us to the place where you started your healing process, your healing journey. What did that look like?
So I believe it honestly started after I got saved. But it was very small increments that I believe the Lord was so gracious. So I, thankful to my current best friend, Courtney Martin. I just want to give you a shout out because I tell you all the time,
love you, Courtney.
I would not be in the kingdom if it wasn't for you. But, so once I got saved, I believe God kind of like showed me this picture of like water pitcher and start pouring out all the secrets and saying
that's
like,
cool.
we have to deal with this. And so I believe that process started around 18, 19 years old. And it was first just awareness and acceptance that what happened. And that I really started to deal with what happened, like putting a name, saying that I was actually abused because like I said earlier, because it didn't look like a certain way, I had a hard time accepting that was part of my story. And when I was in college, I had a friend of mine, she said, Jazmine, if a little girl came to you and told you exactly the things that happened to you, would you tell her story was invalid? And I would say, absolutely not. She said, why do you keep doing that to yourself then? Why are you doing that to yourself? And so I was thinking to myself, wow, okay. That means I need to stop doing that to myself.
Yeah, I often have survivors think about a child the same age as when their abuse happened and see that child, and that child is inside each and every one of us that needs healing and needs their voice. And so how did you get the boys to stop? How did that end?
The voice to stop?
The boys
boys
that were sexually abusing
They moved.
you. They moved. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
They moved. One
God removed them.
Yeah.
did that for you.
One ended up going to prison, which last year he got out. And I actually saw him. When I was getting ready to take my niece and my brother to church. We were getting ready to go to church together. And a car rolled around and he stopped. Okay, so we live in a cul-de-sac, and I was kind of like on the back end of the cul-de-sac, and my brother and my sister were on their way from the house, which is the front end of the cul-de-sac. So he passed me, but I didn't know who it was. And then he stopped at my siblings, and he was like, started talking to them, and they were like, oh, hey, what's up? And I literally looking back, putting my niece in the car, and I was like, wondering who's that?
Yeah.
And then he pulls away, and Sierra, my sister, she was like, Jazz, that's Justin. That was Justin. That they don't know about Justin.
Oh my goodness.
And so internally for me, I was just like, okay.
Yeah, like
okay. But the beautiful part is I've worked through this trauma, and I've truly have gotten to a place of freedom where that moment was a moment for me, and it didn't steal the rest of my day.
Oh, good.
It didn't steal
That's
the
nice.
rest of my emotions, my mind. It didn't do any of that, you know, and because that's the last, like, when I was a child, that was the last thing he was going to steal from me. You're not stealing from me anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
and so I was able to recognize my feelings because they were definitely there. There was a bit of a trigger there, but I recognized them. I didn't stuff them away. I didn't hide them. And, you know, I reminded myself that I am safe and I am an overcomer. And I'm going to go to church and I'm going to worship God and I'm going to spend the rest of my day with my family. Like, I'm not going to allow, I'm not going to allow that. And so
That's good. That's like confirmation of your journey and your healing, that you could do that and process that and have a good day.
So what would you say has been the greatest impetus to your healing? What has been the greatest opportunity?
Define impetus.
Impetus.
Like the main not trigger, that's not a good word to use in this. The main incident
or the thing that pushed you over the
the
hump.
Okay. To where I am today. Okay, so 2019, I started. No, 2018, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I just felt in my spirit the Lord telling me to be vulnerable, like to be vulnerable. I had started a little bit throughout college, you know, actually starting to share. That was the first time I really shared my story, was with a few of my friends in college, but I could share my story without being attached to my story. So it came across like, oh, it doesn't impact me, you know, I'm over this, etc.
Yeah, I was in that detachment for a long time. I was healed.
Third person, you're telling it about.
Isn't that weird how that happens? And we don't even realize it really till later.
And so that's what I was doing. But then, but I wasn't truly being vulnerable, you know. I wasn't truly trusting the people I was sharing it with to really, like, you know, be there, right? And so, and I didn't even understand what that even meant. I didn't even have a grid or framework for that, right? So then in 2019, I started having these physical, like seizures, but they weren't, the doctor said they weren't seizures because I wasn't unconscious, but I would have these, I guess you
like
call
convulsions.
them tremors. Yeah, convulsions, tremors.
That's so crazy you're saying that. This week,
yesterday,
we had
struggled with that.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how often it happens because our bodies physically manifest our internal emotional pain.
Yep.
And she was explaining to us, which we kind of know, but she went in a little deeper of how it has to come out, and sometimes it comes out in ways that we don't really like or understand, but it forces
and the medical
you.
community doesn't
They
really
don't understand.
Yeah. So I started having these tremors, and they would be so exhausting. And it was right around the time where I started living with my current roommates. We've been living together for 6 years now. And they've become like true support systems, and during this time of my life, and God used them a lot in my healing journey. And so they would pray with me, sit with me during these tremors. But then, you know, we were like, we got to get some answers to this. And they were like, we need to take you to the doctor or the hospital. And I didn't have any insurance at the time. So, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't want that bill. They're not going to even be able to tell me what's going on.
Well, they're going to give you medication and mask
right.
it anyways. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of tests.
I know, right? And so I didn't want that. And so then I said, but let's go see Monica first. Monica is a nurse practitioner, and she is a woman of God. And I was like, let's go to her house, and I'm gonna talk to her first, give for a physical exam. She can do one for free, right? And so we went to her house, and she did the physical exam, and she said everything looks fine. And then she said, but let me ask you this. She started addressing the spiritual.
We like Monica.
Right. And I was like, she was like, are there some things you haven't confessed that you need to confess? And I'm like, what are you talking about? No. Like, I'm getting upset. Not upset for real, but like, no. But then my friends, they were like,
spirit was starting to
Jazmine,
ball. Yeah.
there are some things here that God's trying to deal with. And so then that night I actually ended up confessing literally everything that was ever done to me beyond what I even thought mattered or counted, like even from the smallest incidences to the larger ones.
Wow.
And after every confession, I cried and bawled my eyes out. And then Monica helped me, and she prayed over me. And the rest of the girls put their hands on me, and they prayed over me. And I mean, we were there for like 4 or 5 hours that night.
Wow.
And I was exhausted after, but like I believe that was like the
impetus.
Yes, impetus. It broke off that
Impetus.
darkness, and it broke
Yeah.
off, and it allowed for the healing to flow
Yeah.
in and through you.
And that was the start of a journey of like, it's almost like this 4 or 5 year journey. And along the way, God brought people like Angela.
Wow.
the
I have the
Trustees
chills all
community.
over my body. That is
And
so cool.
Yeah. And so, but the thing is, I had to be willing though.
Yeah.
But also too, what a testimony to your friends to have the courage and the boldness to do what they did, and Monica too. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
Wow, for her
I
to
love to
recognize.
see, and I think that there is like breaking the silence. I think is the first thing, but what that acceleration of the healing, you know, to get to a place where you can feel peace and you can feel freedom. You know, I think a lot of survivors are just in bondage
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
abuse,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they don't get to experience that freedom. So tell us how God has used that testimony now today.
So, wow. All right. So, man, how do I share this? So it's so robust. So let me think about how to condense. During that healing time, that healing season, starting in 2018, God called me. At the same time, He exposed all of that. He called me out of my job. And he said, leave your job, abide in me and create. And so,
What kind of job was it? What was your job?
counseling.
Counseling.
I was working as a counselor. Mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I have my master's in counseling.
A master's. I did not know that.
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, my master's degree. Woo woo. But all that woo
That
woo.
was a lot of work, though.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mine's in forensic psychology. So
yeah.
Wow.
So but he called me out of that job and to abide in him and create. And so he gave me space to really be able to like work through this traumatic experience. And so I left my job, and 3 months in, I was like, God, I can't do this. My car about to get repossessed. All my, like, that is crazy. Like, and I can't do this. And so I drove to Zaxby's to stress eat. I said, you know what? I got $7 to my name. I'm going to spend it on French fries.
Oh, good.
I'm going to spend it on Zaxby's French fries. And I'm bawling my eyes out like, God, I can't do this. I got to go back to work. And he literally says to me, you can go back to work. Sure. There's free will, right?
Yeah.
But no, if you go back to work, you are forfeiting everything that I have planned for you and only settling for what your hands can produce.
Wow.
And I was like,
So did you know, like, I know he called you out of the job, but in the meantime, you're waiting. Are you waiting on him to kind of guide you to what you're supposed to do? Or because I'm curious for myself.
So when he said abide and create, meaning literally just abide in him and create. And that's, I didn't know what was on the other side.
So you didn't know create what though?
I didn't even know.
You didn't
so
even
I
know.
am a music artist.
Oh, okay.
I do make music.
Okay.
And so I figured that was it. You know, just be creative, you know, and abide.
I'm like on my edge of my seat. Like, okay, what
And
happened?
So, yes, abide in him and create. And then during that season, I through prayer and all of that stuff, and y'all, it was up and down. It was not a perfect journey.
Yeah.
Okay, there were times where I have done things that I shouldn't have done
Right.
in that season to cope. Right.
Right.
But I got back up on the horse and I said, I'm going to like just try my best to put Jesus first in all of this. And it was a back and forth, up and down. And then I decided that I was just like, okay, I'm gonna tell my story. And then in writing my story, it looked like writing an album, telling my story called Nikeo's World. And it's me telling my story through the lens of a superhero.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a music album of a superhero who can't be the superhero God called her to be fully until she faces the things that she's been running from. And so that album is just an immersive experience. It's telling his story. And I created the album, I released the album, and then I got vision. God gave me vision to use the album and turn it into a nonprofit where Nio Nation is the name of the nonprofit, where we raise awareness of sexual trauma and empower survivors by creating spaces for them to encounter the love of Christ through storytelling, trauma education, and connection to resources.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
Excuse my ignorance, but what does Nikeos mean?
Nikao is
Nikao.
Nikao, and it is a Greek word, and it means to overcome, to conquer,
Oh, okay.
to be victorious.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
It's actually pronounced Nikao,
Nikao.
but I don't like how it sounds too close to cow. So I said
Nikao.
I am kind of using my creativity and
Yeah,
putting a
yeah,
spin
why
on
not?
it, and it's called Nikao.
And is that your middle name?
No.
No, it's not. Okay.
It's just a name that I found.
Okay.
When
Nikao.
researching what I want to call myself as an artist. Now, my artist name is Jazmine Bledsoe.
Okay.
And
that's
I
my
am a
confusion.
conqueror.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew I saw that in your name somewhere. That is awesome.
Because I am a conqueror and I am victorious.
So
And
practically, what does your organization do from a practical standpoint? Do
So
you work with survivors? Do you work?
we create spaces, and so we just found we're not even 2 years old yet. But we create spaces through storytelling. So when you come to a live experience that the Nio Nation puts on, what you will first encounter is you walk through a gallery, which is journal entries that I feel comfortable sharing about that season of healing and that fight and that wrestle with wanting to give up.
Wow.
And then you experience the album. I performed the album, Nikio's World. And then following that is a panel discussion of other of mental professionals, of pastors, of people in the faith community, and who are educated about trauma and its impact on the body and all of those things.
Wow.
And
And
then
how often are these?
so we actually are hoping to launch our first one in April.
Well, we would love to be a part of that.
Yeah.
We would love
Absolutely.
to come and maybe do a live broadcast. We did that at a conference a few weeks ago, or just be a part of it in any way we can. Get the word out for you.
If
That
you
is
wanted
exciting.
to come see a little snippet of it, on November 14th is when we're having a vision night, and you can kind of see.
Are we in town?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But and then the last piece is connecting people to resources. You know, God also said for us to clothe people,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
yes.
like we want to meet the practical need as well. So I'm trying to build partnerships with, like I made a connection with Atlanta volunteer lawyers for anyone who may need some type of
Legal
Oh, she needs to
assistance.
get in touch with Krista.
And-
I can connect you with some folks too.
Yeah.
Well, that is amazing. It's so, to me, exciting how God is weaving together his army.
And connecting
And-
all of us. This is
Yes.
great. I have so much I want to ask you, but I'll say it till after.
So it's just been such an honor and a pleasure. And I'm so glad that God used me in such a small way in your healing journey.
He did, Angela. He did, girl.
I know, it blesses me so much. But at the end of each podcast, and I'm so sad this is coming to an end, but we asked for our guests to give a voice of inspiration. So if there's something that you want to say specifically, maybe to a survivor that has gone through youth on youth abuse, or just what God lays on your heart, so you can look into that camera and speak to our audience.
Okay. Dear survivor, healing is so worth the journey. It's hard. It will be hard, but it is worth the journey. I am a testament to that. So if you are on that journey right now, keep going. And if you haven't started yet, I hope this inspired you to take that journey. I love you. God loves you. And you are so worth this process. So get on that horse and go get them. Go get them.
Yay, what a great word. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed Jazmine's testimony and her victorious journey that she's on now in just pouring into the lives of other survivors. So.
And I feel so honored. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
It's just amazing how God uses all of us and connects us all. And you are an inspiration. You're glowing.
Oh, thank you.
So we're so grateful that you tuned in. We ask that you would please share, comment. If you have any questions for Jazmine, we would be more than happy. And then all of her links will be below if you want to connect with her directly.
Yeah, and of course, if you don't feel comfortable posting anything on our public media outlets, social media stuff, feel free to go to our website. It's actually a new website handle, which I'll put in the description, but it's www.voiceupforthevoiceless.com. And even if you have the old link, it doesn't matter. It'll go to the website. And feel free to contact us, and I'll make sure and get all your questions, comments, or if you want any resources that Jazmine has, I'll forward it all to her.
And as usual, this podcast could not be possible without Mesmerize Media. So we're so grateful for their support. And if you are interested in becoming a corporate sponsor, please reach out and contact us. This content is so important. We find that this is one of the most silenced issues in the world, child sexual abuse. So you would make a huge impact and a huge difference in the lives of survivors and the lives of future children.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
All right. So I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sedano.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.